Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I have another autism talk for you guys, and this one is going to be me talking about African American children being diagnosed with autism up to 2 years later than others.
Don't you forget about me. Don't you.
Okay everyone, so I was reading an article last night, and it was brought to my attention as I was reading it that African American children or minorities are diagnosed with autism up to 2 years later than Caucasians and other races as well. So I just got to thinking about this situation, and you know, it really hurt my spirit because I was like, okay, they're diagnosed up to 2 years. That's just not really a good thing, because we all know that in the world of autism, early intervention is key, and the sooner you get a diagnosis, if that's your case, the better off the outcome will be. So I was really sad and taken back by that situation that I was reading, especially the minority community and everything, and was just inspired to do a video, if you will. I was reading some of the reasons that it could be, and those reasons pretty much fit my description at the time that Caden was diagnosed. So I was like, well, how is it that I was able to overcome being in the same situation that a lot of other people that I was reading about, and yet they still get such a late diagnosis? So one of the things is that a lot of times people's income isn't where it needs to be in terms of getting an early diagnosis. I did read where it said that if you're rich, or a lot of the children have a higher income, they tend to get easier and faster diagnosis, but that wasn't the case for us. We at that time wasn't rich. We still aren't rich, and I still minority. I'm African American, as you guys can see, and my son is African American, even though he is part white. But as far as they talked about income, our income wasn't where it needed to be. Insurance, they say patients on state insurance versus, say, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they say that those children don't get early diagnosis. We had state insurance at the time that Caden was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. So I just really began to compare myself with the situations that I was reading, like being minority and finances. And I was like, well, I still overcame, even though I was in those situations at the time. So it inspired me to look back and think, okay, well, what did I do? Was there anything that I did that maybe these individuals didn't do? So today I do want to talk about some of the things that I did in getting an early diagnosis for Caden. It wasn't easy, you guys. It was very tough. And so I just want to share with you guys some of the things that I did. The first thing that I did was I definitely persevered. I talk about perseverance a lot because in my case and in our situation, we had to persevere through so many things, you guys. And when I look back on where we were then and where we are now, we've come a long way. And I want to make sure that my goal in life would just be to save as many children as I can, whether you're black or white, and to ensure that they get an early diagnosis. So let me talk about some of the things that I did, and also give you guys some tips. Now let me put a disclaimer on the video. The tips that I'll be sharing is exactly what I did. So it may work for you, it may not, but let's just go ahead and talk about it. So the first thing that I think that people need to do is educate themselves on autism spectrum disorder. You guys, this is an epidemic in our country, and it's not talked about, that it's so widespread, that so many children are being affected by it. It's just not talked about. And so one thing that I learned is that people sometimes don't necessarily educate themselves on things that doesn't relate to them. So it's really important to just educate yourself on a variety of things, but especially autism. I would read about it, talk about it. Well, not talk about it, but I would definitely read about it and just really understand it. You don't have to get in details about it or just depth, but there are some key factors and key tips on signs of autism. Now, a lot of people, you guys, do not support Autism Speaks for many, many reasons, but I would definitely start with Autism Speaks. Their website is packed full of information about autism. Even if you want to go on there and just read the signs and symptoms, it's available. So I will leave the Autism Speaks website in the description box for anyone out there that may be interested in reading about it, but definitely start there. And I've actually given that link to a few of my college friends who suspected their children are on the spectrum, and they said that it was a helpful site. Also, don't be in denial about what you're seeing in your child. So a lot of times as parents, we may feel like, oh, they'll grow out of it. And that's number 3 point as well. It kind of goes in with that. But it's like we're in denial because we don't want our children to be this way, or we feel like, oh, well, they'll grow out of it. It'll be all right. I wouldn't necessarily try to be that judge because you never know. The best thing to do is to obviously take them into a healthcare professional so they can get further evaluated. Which brings me to my point of being truthful on your evaluations. Now, in this article, they did do a study where they had African-American. But anyway, so they did a study where they had African-American children in a room, they had Caucasians in a room, and Hispanics in a room. So autism is diagnosed by observation. So they're going off of what they see. And as they were doing the evaluation, they were taking notes about what they were seeing with these children, and later on compared them to the parents' evaluations. And so what they found was a lot of the parents, some were African American as well, were not being completely honest about the questions that were being asked on the evaluation. So in other words, what they were seeing in the children and the answers that the parents were giving on the evaluations, they weren't consistent. So my advice would be is to, when you are doing these evaluations, make sure you're answering these evaluations the best of your ability. If you have questions about what it's asking you, then make sure you ask. Because sometimes the evaluations can be a little bit tricky about how they word things and the answers that you have to answer. So make sure you guys are answering those questions out fully. Be honest, because you never know. So those are some of the things. I'm pretty sure I'll do another video about this in the future, just because I want to make sure that children are being diagnosed as early as possible. Now, I do understand in some of those areas there aren't enough resources. There just isn't enough resources, and that can be very problematic. I did go on the Autism Speaks website, and I saw where that is a problem in a lot of those areas and communities. And so I was curious to know, how can we fix that? How can we provide resources to places that need them for children that may or may not be on the autism spectrum? So I will continue to research that, you guys, and just really see how we can close this gap, because I don't know. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.